All right, thank you for coming, everybody. So we are in Proverbs 31, and we're finishing. We're going to finish Proverbs 31 today. So yeah.
We're almost there. We're done. Take a deep breath.
Yeah. So this is the last chapter of Proverbs. Next week we will be having a special service for our next topic. We're going to be talking about end times. So, and but it'll be neat. So we are in verse 10, verses. Well, it'll be chapter 31, verse 10 through 31. This last part, it's a good place to end it because this is just kind of all one expression. It's just talking about basically like Solomon, or you could even say Solomon's mom, because he says, this is when it talks about at the beginning, it's like his mom talking, but it's really Solomon. But it says, the woman who fears the Lord. And in verses 10 through 31, is in the Bible I was reading, it said that this is an acrostic poem. Acrostic poem? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Acrostic, yeah. Acrostic poem. It means each verse beginning with the successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So all the verses are actually divided by different successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So I think that's pretty neat the way it was written. The Bible's full of poetry, and it's just a beautiful book. And it's amazing because it's God's love letter to us. And in verse 10 it says, an excellent wife who can find. She is far more precious than jewels, and the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself. It says, or in one translation, she girds her loins with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all of her household are clothed in scarlet, or it could say double thickness. She makes bed coverings. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers slashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. So, yeah.
She said that to me.
Something that, she says charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but we do know that Bathsheba was beautiful because David was attracted to her. And that's why he fell. But, it's still something, though, that it is still a lesson, though, that, not to fall for, just a woman because she's beautiful, that she has to fear the Lord, that's the most important thing.
I like the way they describe the
poem here, it says, exalting the honor and dignity of womanhood.
Mm. Yeah. And, in our society, it's something, it's really sad how they really put down just womanhood. It's something just, look at this poor girl that, in what happened in Tennessee, just the senseless loss of life there. But, she's taught to be a man. She's taught that the only way that she can be accepted is to be a man. And it's sad. You see it in a lot of the movies now too, where, they don't take a strong motherly type woman. They make her into a man. They just change her character and just make a character that would normally go to a man. They just cast a woman there, and she has all the male attributes, and it's bizarre, and it doesn't glorify womanhood. It doesn't glorify femininity or just the free expression of the women have. God created us male and female, it says. And yet you see this attack on womanhood. And then it talks about toxic masculinity too.
It takes away what God meant it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes away.
Instead of adding to it, it's taken away.
Their
Yeah.
destiny.
Yeah.
It's the plans he has for them.
Yeah.
They're tampering with God's creation.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing about this is that there's a whole lot of people involved in that. Doctors, the people who create the medicine, right? The pharmacies that are involved in creating the medicine, the physicians who, involved in nurses. I mean, you can't just,
Counselors.
go out in somebody's back alley and get it done, I met this lady some years ago, and she had a little boy and a little girl. And I met them when they were just about that tall. And then I didn't see him for a while. The next time I saw him, she had two girls. And I was wondering, what happened, right? So, fast forward to 18, 19 years, she's now 21, 22. I think she's gonna die soon. She has so many, she's so bloated, so heavy, and just has so many health issues. She's been in the hospital. This time she's been in the hospital for about 3 weeks, and doctors don't know what to do with her. It's so sad to watch that, because her mom sends me reports all the time, asking for prayer. And, it's so sad that we don't know what all that is going to do to these children when they grow up. But it really is, again, getting back to when you start messing with God's creation, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the thing is, a person can't change what God already made. And it's really sad, just because, this is the only mental disorder that these doctors and medical people feed. It's just like if someone comes in with an eating disorder, they treat the eating disorder. You don't prescribe the medication to help them lose weight. But that's what they're doing exactly here is that these people are coming in with a mental disorder and they're treating the mental disorder as if it's normal, as if it's something that we should celebrate and say like, oh, well, yeah, let's chop off your body parts and let's prescribe you this medication so you can feed into this mental disorder.
and you dare
And
not go against it.
Yeah.
I've been in the same job in urology for almost 23 years, really 23 years in June. And when I first started, we would get some phone calls from men who wanted to have surgery, and all the doctors would laugh, and the insurance would absolutely not pay for it, and you would call, they would not pay for it. And now, 23 years later, the insurances will pay for it for gender dysmorphia.
Gender dysmorphia? Yeah.
Gender dysmorphia,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, they give it a clinical term to name it.
Yeah.
But now insurance companies will pay for it, but like when I started because in urology, it's part of something they can do, the surgeons. And, but when I started before, it was like, joke, and
Mhm.
insurance wouldn't pay for it. And then I was just gonna say, when that happened in Tennessee, and they said it was a woman, the first thing I told you is, women don't shoot up schools. That's not a woman doesn't do that.
It's happened, I think, 5 times in history. Like there was one other woman
Yeah, but
more.
like, it's not
but,
really, it's
yeah.
not
It's not
I
common,
see
no.
And so it was,
Yeah.
I was like, something's wrong here. I was telling myself, this is weird. Women, this isn't, women don't do this. And
Yeah.
then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not a
I
woman.
think the misconception of the Christian theology, Jonathan, is that the fact that they use the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that they leave out the woman, and they feel that the woman is of no worth,
Mm.
which is not true. The Virgin Mary was chosen by God.
Mhm.
That if it wouldn't have been for the Virgin Mary chosen by God, then Jesus wouldn't have been the, incarnate God
Yeah.
in the
There's a fly around here. Sorry. But yeah, it's we needed Mary to to birth Jesus. And it's we're all here because of a woman. Adam and Eve. Adam didn't create all the mankind. I guess you could say he did by virtue of his rib creating Eve, but even then, it was God that created Eve. So it's just something that, God, he designed us all, and we're either male or female. It says as he created us. And, it's just sad when people think that they're born in the wrong body, or, they're, because the enemy, he wants to really mess with people's identity. I mean, that's what pride and what pride is, is messing with your identity, not knowing who you are and not knowing who God is. And that's exactly why the devil tries to mess with people's identity, because he knows how important it is for people to know that we're created in God's image, for people to know that who God is, and who we are in relation to God.
That's what I shared with the women on Saturday. I said, the one about that you never hear about the women that went up to the mountain to pray with Lord, to be with the Lord, to be in His presence. Because, and the reason we don't is because women were down waiting for, cleaning, taking care of kids and the whole 9 yards. And God came to them instead.
And the Bible still talks about women, that got the job done too, as far as Esther, saving the people of Israel by, risking her life to go before the king. Also, if you look at Deborah, she was a judge. And so, there's different examples of women leadership. And like you said, Mom, busy, she makes linen garments and sells them. She's busy doing housework, taking care of the family, making sure that they're clothed and making sure.
This is a prime example about what I just said. I heard it over the radio, and that's why I shared it with the ladies. But, you see how, the Lord is with us when we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, taking care of our kids, doing whatever it is that He feels we need to be doing. And if we're doing it, He's with us.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah, and she fears the Lord.
I sent a t-shirt.
Terry.
Says, I was a man trapped in a woman's body, then I was born.
That's a good one.
That nobody was made from him, and then when they get married, they become one.
One flesh, yeah.
So the man that's with a man or the woman that's with a woman is not a complete person,
Yeah.
because, they were not made to be of equal.
Amen. And it's something too, I like just the discussion it has on kind of finances here too. It's just, you look at what she does, it says she's far more precious than jewels. You look at all the stuff she does for her family. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. So, and it talks about it, being at distaff and the spindle, that she is working on, fixing the kids' clothes, she's making sure that they're covered in good clothes, they're not full of holes, it says that they're clothed in scarlet or, the double thickness, so that they have good clothes to protect them. She, she does good and not harm all the days of her life, it says. She brings her food from afar, so that means that she works hard, that she's doing these extra side jobs, to make money to provide for her family and to get nice, rich stuff, stuff from a far off land.
It also says that she helps the needy,
Mm-hmm.
poor.
Yeah, she doesn't neglect the needy or the poor either, and that's important because she opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She's not greedy with it either. She does it to provide for her family, number one, but also for other people that need help. She's there too.
The word virtuous here says the adjective is used in different contexts with reference to strength, ability, efficiency, wealth, and talent.
Yeah.
She buys real estate.
Yeah. She understands. She considers a field and buys it. She doesn't just go and buy it. It says she considers it. So it's something that she makes wise investments, because you can make some people think, oh, if you invest in property that you've already won, and then some people are in the hole, you get the money pit and you just can never get out of it. It's one thing to she considers it. She makes wise investments. It's not just a blanket, oh, I'm just going to invest. She makes wise investments with the fruit of her hands. She plants a vineyard, so she works hard. She's even going out in the vineyard and planting, grapes and stuff. So she's not sitting on her, especially at the end, it says that she doesn't give her hands to idleness. Where does it say that? In verse, verse 26, it says, she does not eat the bread of idleness. Or verse 27, she looks well to the ways of her household. She's always considering just how she can better her house too. In American society, and I think a great deal of many other societies, we often see someone with a lot of money and we think about how successful that person is. And just, I also think about, I was thinking of the song, if you've ever seen Fiddler on the Roof, he says, if I were a rich man, he said, like, I'd gather and people would listen to what I have to say, even if it's wrong, they'd still think I'm right because I'm rich. Just something like that. But, it's just, people give so much prestige to people that have lots of money. And I was talking with a friend recently just about how they had just gone to a conference and they heard these, professing Christians that, became millionaires. And thought that was pretty neat. And then she mentioned, yeah, and they have these classes. They're like, you can go to. And I'm like, do they charge for the classes? And she's like, yeah, it's like $100. But for 4 classes, I'm like, okay, so they're rich millionaires, and they haven't figured out how to give this stuff away for free, like I'm a millionaire. Let me show you how to be a millionaire. Just pay me $100. Like, and she said at the conference, I was like, how much was the conference? She said, it was $22. Like, and how many people were there? She was like, oh, thousands were there. I'm like, think about how much money they're making. Think about if a small percentage of those people just show up to their classes. Think about how much money they're making. And, it's really a shame. I mean, I don't really know the intentions of these people, but, if we can provide what we're providing tonight for free, they can too.
Well, it sounds like Scientology, because you have to
Right.
pay to the next level.
Yeah.
I was watching, I forget what show I was watching, but he was like, yeah, I paid to get to this next level, and I don't feel any
They got your money. You just got a lighter pocket. Look.
You get to the next level of stupidity.
They're at another level. You're richer.
Yeah. Scientology's got to the next level. But I just thought that was so ridiculous. I'm like, why can't they provide those classes for free? If they're such a valuable to the Christian church and everything, why don't they provide them for free? I mean, what we do here tonight, we provide for free. We have YouTube. We were able to do that. And, even just YouTube's a free resource. I mean, there's lots of free places where you can host stuff for free. I mean, you can do free blogs on Google too. There's absolutely no reason why they have to charge so much money.
I think
You know,
people
just-
think that if they're paying for something, they're gonna get more.
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean, it's obviously not true.
yeah,
But even like Scientology or, opposed to like Christianity, and yeah, it's a free gift.
yeah,
For some reason, people are stuck that the more something costs, the better it is, and
yeah,
I'll get more from it because I'm paying for it.
yeah. That's true. Yeah, and it's sad too, because I mean, I see these types of scams though in the church that have been there for a long time, and it really grieves my spirit, to hear that type of stuff is going on, especially the people that I hear that are involved. I'm just like, I don't want to name names, I don't want to slander anybody, but it's just, because I wasn't there either, I mean, to really get a full feel of it, but to me, it's just disgusting, I mean, if it doesn't pass the smell test, like if you're gonna, you go to the refrigerator, you find something, you pull it out, it's rotten, you can tell right away because of the smell, you throw it out. And I feel like sometimes some Christians don't pass the smell test. You could tell that they're rotten from the core just because it's just like, yeah, this doesn't smell right. Just if we can smell it, the world can smell it too. And that really puts a stench in their nose to the Lord, and that's not good. And I really feel that Christians need to be more mature than that, and just we shouldn't tolerate that type of stuff. This event was held at a church is more discouraging. That. It's just really sad that, a lot of people were suckered into this. Even people at the church, I believe, at the higher levels were suckered into it, if not part of it. But it's sad because there's so much people that think that success is measured in dollar bills. That your value to the kingdom is somehow measured in how much money you make or how much you can give. And that flies in the face of what Jesus talked about in Mark and Luke. In Mark 12:42, and a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which make a penny. And he called his disciples to him and said to them, truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are contributing to the offering box. It says here, Greek is 2 lepta, which make a chondrate. A chondrate was a Roman copper coin worth about, it says 1/64 of a denarius. And a denarius was basically a day's wage for a labor, I guess. Or maybe that's 2 of those copper coins, because here it says 2 lepta. A lepta was a Jewish bronze or copper coin worth about 128th of a denarius. So this fly is really bugging me. But in Luke 21:2, it says, and he saw a poor widow and put in 2 small copper coins. And he said, truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. And just, Jesus didn't say, wow, look at, Bob over there. He donated like 90 million, he donated, like $100 or something, He saw her put in 2 little mites, and he said she gave more than any of them because she gave all that she had. And, it's something just, Jesus isn't impressed with the amount we give. He's impressed with the percentage we give, and that's what really impressed Jesus. And, it just really irks me for people to get so arrogant and so self-reliant that they think that they're doing God a service. It's like God's the one that's doing the service. I mean, he could do it with or without our help, but that he uses us is just part of his love for us, that he wants to use us. And it's just something that, it's just so sad. And the other thing too is, people, think that they can really gain all this, and it's not for everyone to be at a certain level. I mean, in Ecclesiastes 9:11, it says, again I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. You know, so just because somebody's made it rich doesn't mean that they got there because they were intelligent or because they were successful. You know, it's just, sometimes it's just time and chance that happens to them. You know, and it's just the Lord's blessing sometimes, and you have to understand that. And I think sometimes people get a big head and they think, oh, well, I did it, everyone can do it. And it's not so much that. Some people, you know, maybe they don't have the same opportunities, but also maybe they just, maybe it's just not for them to be rich. You know, there's some people that if they were rich, it'd be a really bad thing for them. And there's some rich people that they're very rich and it's a very bad thing for them. And so it's just something that we have to consider, that, you know, a person's success isn't at all measured in their pocketbook, but whether or not they fear the Lord, you know, and just that's really what he's saying here. You know, she's working hard. You know, she's not living like a rich person, even if she is rich. You know, she's working hard. And, you know, the rich people that work hard, you know, that's impressive, you know, and that's beautiful. But, you know, when they sit and they just idle, that's bad, you know, whether you're rich or poor. So,
It says that she provides for her maidens also, so she has
yeah.
people who could probably do all that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Amen.
she's doing it herself.
Amen. Yeah.
One of the verses says she delights in working hard.
Yeah.
I think it's verse, it says, she is, anyway, it wasn't the verse you said, but in other words, she's a hardworking person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
You know-
the one with, where she, buys the field,
Mm-hmm.
and then it says she plants it, you know, herself.
Yeah.
So, you know.
She's not going out hiring workers, you know,
Right, yeah.
you know, and that's the amazing thing is, you know, that she's doing the work herself,
Right.
you know, and it's impressive, like at every level, you know, it says she's far more precious than jewels, you know, because, I mean, anyone can make you rich, but to hold on to those riches is another thing that takes hard work. You know, because there's some rich billionaires that, you know, they lose everything, you know, and just you look at the stock market crash and just how many of those rich Wall Street people, they just jumped out of windows because they lost everything. Back in the 20s, you know, that happened, and just or the 30s, 29. So yeah.
And then I think it's interesting, like in the middle of all this, they're talking about her and everything she does. And right in the middle in 23, they throw in, her husband is respected at the city gate where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. So so the way I interpret that is, so the community respects her too and
Yeah.
sees her hard work.
Yeah.
And yes, they honor her husband, he probably works hard too, but I just think it's interesting that they do it in there, like they're honoring him because they all see what a hard worker
Yeah.
she is.
And it says she's honored too, you know, and also along with that though, you think about it, he's well dressed because of her too. So you know,
Yeah, it's because of her.
yeah, she takes care of him.
And he's noticed where he goes.
Yeah, he's
I
noticed.
never ironed Eddie's pants. Though. The first time I ironed Eddie's pants, he said, "Thank you, but next time can I only have one crease instead of two?" And I said, "Yup, you can do it yourself."
And then I ended up ironing her clothes.
Yeah, 'cause I only want one crease too.
It says she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teachings of kindness is on her tongue. You know, it's beautiful too that she's a kind person too. You know, even though she's hardworking, you know, she's not bitter over it. She's not complaining. She's full of kindness. You know, and she does everything without bitterness or complaining. You know, it's all to serve.
I don't know if it's a joke or if it's a true story,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a guy and his wife, and he was a senator or something, and there was another guy, and the guys looked at his wife, he looked at him, And she used to date him, I guess, when they were kids, and he tells her, says, "You see, aren't you glad you married me?" He says, and she looked at him, she said, "Why?" He said, "Well, you know, I'm this important person, you know, I'm a senator." And then she goes, "Oh, yeah," she goes, "If I would have married him," he goes, "He'd be a senator."
Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
I have heard that, I think it's a true story. I have heard that.
Yeah.
Was it Franklin Roosevelt's wife?
I'm not sure, but I
One of the guys.
have
Yeah.
heard that, I've heard that story, I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it's true.
Where does it say she doesn't complain?
Well, I'm inferring because of the teachings of kindness. So, teaching of kindness being on her tongue.
What verse is that?
Verse 26, she opens her mouth with wisdom and teachings of kindness is on her tongue. So that's why I'm inferring that. But,
That's stretching out loud.
I like the Passion Bible.
mhm,
You know, it's pretty cool. It says, she's a woman of strength and mighty valor. She's full of wisdom and she's full of wealth and wisdom.
mhm,
It's of course the price, you know, the price paid for her was greater than many jewels. I guess this was in the day where dowries, you gave a dowry for your wife. It says, her husband has entrusted his heart to her, for she brings him the rich spoils of victory. All throughout her life she brings him what is good and not evil. It says, she searches out continually to possess for that which is pure and righteous. She delights in the works of her hands. That's the one I was talking about.
mhm,
I like this because she gives out revelation truth to feed others. She's like a trading ship bringing divine supplies from a merchant.
mhm.
So that's a different view on that
Yeah.
particular verse. You know, I like that she gives out revelation truth to feed others.
Yeah, it says strength and dignity are her clothing. And she laughs at the time to come.
So if she
You know-
does all these things, what does he do?
Yeah.
What does the husband do?
He's a king. So, so it's something just, but I believe the king works hard. I believe Solomon worked hard. I mean, I don't think all of that blessing from God just fell in his lap. I believe he worked hard for it too. And he talks about that in Ecclesiastes, how hard he worked, and just, he said, what good is it? He says, I worked all this time and it goes all to someone else, just,
Do you think this is a real woman, or do you think he's just imagining what a real godly woman is?
I think his mom was like
All the
this.
things I would want in a
Yeah.
woman.
You know, all the women Solomon had, right?
I thought they were talking about my wife.
Gold star.
I don't make bed stuff, but I do wash it, so.
The only
Oh,
problem she
you-
has is finding wool and flax, but
Does she get to do that?
I thought it said wool and floss.
I think it's something that women can build on,
Mhm.
to what God is saying about women,
Mhm.
that you can be.
Yeah.
I think also some of it is, remember at that time, women weren't given much of a place either,
Mhm.
right? And so now it's talking a whole lot about women here and what, the kind of woman, that a godly woman should be, right?
Yeah.
And it's giving them, kind of an outline of what, whether it's true or not, or whether he's talking about a real person or not.
Yeah.
That's what, because a lot of people do a lot of sermons on Proverbs 31.
Yeah.
When they're talking about women, and this is where they relate to all that.
There's a
Mhm.
ministry called Proverbs 31 Women.
Yeah, 31 actually.
Well,
Yeah, and it's-
I was thinking of the Queen of Sheba,
Mhm.
because she was a queen, and it doesn't say the King of Sheba came, but the Queen of Sheba came
Mhm.
to visit Solomon, to sit at his feet and to learn from his wisdom. Maybe it was her or somebody like that, or
Mhm.
maybe it was his mom.
Mhm. Yeah. I have a feeling that Bathsheba instilled in Solomon a hard work ethic, because why did it go to Solomon of all his sons? He wasn't the firstborn of David. but Solomon, he got the kingdom. And I believe it's because Solomon had a strong work ethic that was instilled in him by his mom. And it's just something that I think that she reached her hands out to the needy. I think that he saw that. And I believe that, that she didn't just sit back, but she worked hard for David, and I believe that she really loved David. And it says she opens her mouth with wisdom. Before that, when it says she laughs at the time to come, what's the time to come?
She's prepared for it.
Prepared for the end times. Yeah, prepared.
Ants,
Yeah,
squirrels.
yeah. She says strength and dignity are her clothing, so she's strong. She's ready for anything that comes at her. And that's something that, just to be ready, how are we prepared? It's through prayer, it's through diligence, it's through seeking the Lord. If there's something that, there's all these people that try to prep for the end times. There was even a show on Nat Geo, it was called Doomsday Preppers. And it was always funny to watch because, these people that spend, their entire life savings, they spend all this money, they spend all this time building up these supplies, building up these bunkers and all these other things. And then they give them a rough estimate of, in their doomsday scenario, how long they would survive. And it's always like, a couple months, 2 or 3 months that they add to their life, because when you think about all the food supply, all the water supply, that stuff has a limit. It goes bad, so it's kind of funny. They're like, oh yeah, we give you 2 or 3 extra months to live, It's just the people are all like, what? I said, well, these are some things you can improve on, but it's just kind of funny, just how, these people have this notion in their head that they're going to live forever, and it's just like, yeah, they have these stockpiles of ammo and everything, and it's like, it only takes one bullet to kill you, at the end of the day, it's just, you can't take it all with you.
Or disease.
Yeah, or accident, yeah.
Well, after that, nature hit.
I mean, you think about God's providence through all of human history, because before we had these medical advances, you could get an infection and die. I could get a pinprick from working on a fence, and then I get an infection, and then I die from the infection, and then thank God they discovered penicillin. But it's just there was these times. I think about how throughout human history, man's been able to survive. I think God's been looking out for us. And we have to acknowledge that, mankind didn't get here on our own. It was the Lord that really brought us through it all.
The coronavirus took a lot of people and
Mhm.
nobody knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people died, a lot of family members and people you didn't, took up by surprise. A lot of my family died from the family law. They were my brother and nieces and nephews. And they look great, and then they're sick and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's kind of like what
Yeah,
God says.
it's
Be ready because you don't know when.
yeah, and it's something though that that something like this doesn't happen more often though. Even that it really is God looking out for us. That this type of, because there's so many people that would want to cause harm and destruction too. That the Lord holds back evil too. And just it's something that God, He really does want to protect us, and I believe sometimes people lift God's protection. When we just turn aside from God and we look after all the evil things in the world, not that anyone is being punished because of their sin, but it's collective sin of a nation, of the world. This people in general that have turned their backs on God and opened up the door for even innocent people to be harmed. And that's just sad that we see so many different people that were harmed by this, and just it's we look at just the evil of man and what perpetrated this. There was gain of function research in China to design this virus, but we were the ones paying for it. So it's insane, just but yeah,
Well, Jesus said that there would be pestilences, whether
Mhm.
they're man-made or not.
Yeah.
That would be one of the signs of the last days would be, look at how overnight the whole world shut down
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't really that bad compared to the, Spanish flu.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but.
And considering the medical treatments we have nowadays too, I mean,
Right.
and you look at some of the medical treatments that were denied people too. Like in Africa, they didn't have as high of death numbers as us, and yet they were taking certain medications, that probably prevented them from getting COVID. So it's very insane.
But again, I think I'm reading a couple of books on Revelation, and one on Pastor Chuck Smith called The Final Act, which is really about the last days, but, the way the world is, and if you put Bible prophecy in the mix, when Jesus said that generation will not pass away until all these things are fulfilled, what generation?
Mm-hmm.
It was a generation when Israel became a nation again, which is we know it's a miracle.
Yeah.
After 2,000 years of not being a nation, it's a nation again.
Yeah.
But I really believe that Israel is a timepiece. If we want to really know what's happening in the world, look at Israel. We're that generation,
Mm-hmm.
and things are winding up, for a real showdown.
Mm-hmm.
And, I believe that, that we don't have that much time as far as this age. And, the church is going to be taken up.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory on the pre-tribulation rapture is that it's going to be taken up because when we return, it says, I saw in Revelation 19, he sees Jesus coming on a white horse with the armies of heaven,
Mm-hmm.
which is the saints and the angels.
Yeah.
So if the church is here in the tribulation,
Yeah.
who's riding back with Jesus?
Yeah.
It's the church and the angels.
Yeah.
So, but I do believe that the rapture, if the tribulation is close and that we're in the last days, the rapture's got to be a lot sooner than what most Christians even realize.
Yeah.
But the world is saying there's something going on. We're probably going to see the end.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, they do it under climate change and all that to try to scare
Yeah.
people. But even the world realizes that there's something going on.
Yeah. And, the other thing too is, I feel that just like with Noah and even when in Egypt, when the plagues hit Egypt, the plagues didn't hit the land of Goshen where the Israelites were. And so, it's just something that God has a way of sparing his people his wrath. And I believe that, the wrath we're going to see, I know some people argue that, it's going to be Satan's wrath. Why would God spare us from his wrath but not Satan's wrath? So I don't buy into that either, that the church is going to see Satan's wrath. Yeah, exactly. And, yes.
He's been forgiving us all this time.
Yeah. I mean,
It's not just a no.
we will see persecution against the church, but I mean, Jesus said that, they persecuted me, that's a whole different thing, and the persecution of the church isn't necessarily Satan's wrath. I believe that's the wrath of man, and I believe that that's something that God doesn't always spare us from, because you look at the fruitfulness of, people that have been executed for the gospel, and how then the gospel changed those places where people were being persecuted. I know in Korea, the first missionary that landed in Korea, he was, all he could tell them was, Jesus loves you, and then they killed him. And they took all the Bibles he had brought. He had bought a bunch of Bibles written in Korean. And they took his Bibles and they started using them as wallpaper. And they started reading the wallpaper. And they got saved, and a lot of people. Yeah. So it's incredible, though,
But there's so many stories like that, how it backfires, like that one Korean, preacher, he was leading a lot of people to the Lord. He even started leading some of the communists to the Lord. So they arrested him, and they said it was snowing. It was up in the mountains somewhere, in this camp, like a prison camp. And they said, we'll see how big your God is. And they left him outside with hardly any clothing, in the snow. And he just got on his knees and he started praying. They got up in the morning, and they went out there, and around him the snow had melted, and they touched him, he was nice and warm. He was still alive.
Well, you know, Jonathan, when God has to correct injustice, he pours out his wrath. He prosecutes the unjust, but then simultaneously he rewards the just. So there's wrath with reward.
Yeah.
There was a story in China during when communism was starting to take over. There was a woman, and they wouldn't let her preach. And there was a riot in the prison, and the warden of the prison, was scared that, he couldn't lose control of the prison, right? So he called her and asked her if she would come and pray for the prisoners. And when she walked in, the whole prison just calmed down, right? So then from then on, they let her come in and preach, the gospel to the prisoners in the prison, yeah. So God takes those things, right? And like that man, remember, he went to such a movie that was made, he went to this tribe, this lost tribe, and started to preach them. They killed him pretty quick. And then years later, his son went, right? And was able to convert the whole tribe.
What was amazing about that too is his son had the experience of his dad dying to murder. They all had the same experience because there was so much murder and death between that tribe, and just they all had something in common, and God used that, even to heal that place. And they said, we were so used to killing each other, and just when that happened, that finally broke, that God showed them a better way. And just, it was a beautiful thing, that even though the guy had lost his dad, so had everyone in that tribe, they had lost a parent or a family member to murder. So it was something that, they could identify with. And it's something that God still used. And it's just something that God has a way of reaching people that you think could never be reached. And just it's something that it's really beautiful that how God can do that, even through, people's sacrifice for Him.
We're talking about a song, Proverbs 31 woman. One of the people I really admire is Mother Teresa. Here she was a wealthy woman, from Europe, from an aristocratic family, and God called her, and she went to India, and it was a very dark place when she went there. The Hinduism and all the different religions, and imagine the millions of gods that they have, and yet when she died, it was like they gave her a state funeral, like a president of the country that died.
Yeah.
She touched so many people. And she really loved Jesus. A lot of people don't know that about her, that she really knew the Lord.
I saw a few interviews of her speaking, and it was really neat to have her talk about the Lord. It was really powerful.
Yeah.
And just it's something that I get really going back to also just talking about the money in the church. I really feel that sometimes I was talking about it smelling bad. One of the reasons why it smells so bad is because a man can't serve God and money. You can't serve both. You can't have two masters. And it's something just. My immediate thought was just Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. So it's just so important that, a woman who fears the Lord, it says the heart of her husband trusts in her and will have no lack of gain. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and the portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself, she girds her loins with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hand to the distaff and her hands hold the spindle. this is a really hardworking person. You know, she's not out grifting people, trying to sell them, you know, on how they can be successful. You know, and I have to really say that my grandma, even though she never owned her own home, even though she never owned a vehicle, you know, she never even learned to drive, she was more successful than these millionaires because the inheritance that she left her family was one of righteousness. It wasn't one of, you know, finances. And I think sometimes people get a really bad idea about, you know, just, you know, they think that money will take care of their problems instead of God. And God is my source. You know, he doesn't look at my bank account, he looks at my heart. And I don't know why so many people think that if they just had a little bit more cash, they'd be better off. You know, and just, it says in Proverbs 10:22, the blessings of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. It says, and also, toil adds nothing to it. You know, it's something that, you know, you can't really add to the blessings of God, you know, with hard work or anything. The blessings of God are there on their own, and add no sorrow. There's a kind of a double meaning there, you know, that people need to know, is that it isn't my efforts that make me rich, and the riches of God add no sorrow. You know, it's not through my efforts that I'm rich. You know, even though she's working hard, you know, it's not through her efforts that she's rich. You know, it's that she fears the Lord that she's rich, and that her family is very blessed. You know, and yeah, her hard work is important. You know, don't discount hard work. You know, that's just because, you know, the blessings of the Lord make you rich doesn't mean that you have a right to be lazy. You know, so. But yeah. Any Christian giving testimonials on how to become a millionaire, and they're not doing it for free, to me that just stinks. You know, I don't know about you, but to me that stinks. It doesn't smell right.
You know, there was a time back in the 80s where these Christian, you know, success speakers, you know, and some were pastors,
Mm-hmm.
but they were making a lot of money going to these cities and having these conferences and, you know, charging an arm and a leg,
Yeah.
you know, and telling people how they could be blessed. And but I think, I mean, I don't know their motives, but I got the same impression from you that something doesn't
Something
smell
stink.
right.
You know, it's funny too. Like also, even people that talk about like, you know, that speak against the prosperity gospel, they make millions off of their books writing against the prosperity gospels. How ironic, right? Yeah, something fishy there too, right?
That's why you need divine revelation, personal
Mhm.
divine revelation.
Discernment, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking in regards to the value of women that we were discussing earlier, Jonathan, I had a funny situation that when we had a craving to go eat, get a burger at I think it was a Carl's Jr. So there's happened to be three, probably one more in the back, 4 guys, it was just all guys. The place was falling apart, people were coming in, they were coming, this is no lie, man. There's one or two guys in front of me. I stood there like 10, 15 minutes waiting for my order. The guy that was in front of me was still waiting for his. Then 2 more guys came in. These are the guys too. There was no females doing the ordering. The 2 guys just blasted the doors and went out and they were cursing these guys. And I told these guys, you know what you need, man? You need some women working here. Seriously. And he says, what? You know, they were like, you know, high school kids.
Yeah.
No, because they probably know what they're doing. You guys, man, these guys are their bar job right now, they're gonna get with your store manager or your supervisor. They're gonna report you guys, man. They didn't know how to get the change right. The guys were doing, one was running through the drive-through, the other one was, they were like scattering, man. Some African American guy asked for his change. The guy says, hey, you didn't give me my change, right? He said, oh, I'm sorry. So I says, there was another one, man. You guys gotta get your act together. So you need some women. I did say that. It's funny how we were discussing about this.
What's funny is there was a restaurant not too far from here that when they had a woman manager, the place was really nice, really clean, just really well run. And then
And the food was good.
yeah, food was really good too. It was better quality. And then when she left, a guy came in to manage, and he did not do the same job. Just haven't gone back since he's been there. It's just not been good. And it's something just the difference sometimes that a manager can be, and when they really pay attention to detail. And women can be pretty good at that, paying attention to detail. And some guys are not good at that. And just it's something that if any, in 1 Timothy 6:13 it says, "If anyone teaches a different doctrine and does not agree with the sound, healthy words of our Lord Jesus Christ and the teachings that accords with godliness, he is puffed up with conceit, understands nothing. He has an unhealthy craving for controversy and quarrels about the words, which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicions, and constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and depraved of the truth, imagining that godliness is a means of gain. But godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs." Isn't it something that, it talks about the things that she's doing, providing food, going out and getting flax and wool, providing clothing and food, that it says that she gets food from afar, that she plants a vineyard, so she's doing all these things. Look at what it is. It's food and clothing. And look what he says here, food and clothing. But if we have food and clothing, these will be content. It doesn't talk, it says that she's more valuable than jewels, but it doesn't say that she goes and she values pearls, or, that she, is in the gem market or anything like that, but it's something though that she values clothing and food for her family. And, those are the things that are of true value. And just, but if we have food and clothing, with these we'll be content. It doesn't say we have, the nicest clothes, but we do have clothes that, keep us warm at least, and clothes that provide a function, and also food.
But in those days, the wardrobe, women made the wardrobe for the family.
Yeah.
So it says her husband is recognized as one of the government leaders at the gates of the city, and he was decked out. So she knew how to, make nice clothing, for her family, especially for her husband, because he was a recognized, leader of the city.
And a wife wants her husband to look good,
Right.
or to at least be even represented good, and that's what a loving wife does for her husband, is she tries to make him look good. Because, guys, they want to be honored, and that's one way that a wife honors her husband. And it's also important that a wife, not down talk to her husband, that if there's issues, there's ways of handling it that doesn't involve down talking, but, and vice versa, yeah. And not that it goes both ways, but also, it says that a husband should love his wife, as Christ loved the church. He's sacrificial, he lays down his life for her too. So it's,
I like this verse 15, even in the night season, she arises and sets food on the table for hungry ones in her house and for others. So while it's still dark, before the sun comes up, she's already making food for the day,
yeah.
and for other people,
Yeah.
not just for her family.
Yeah, it says that, and her maidens are cared for too. So yeah, servants, everyone, she's getting stuff prepared for them.
Okay, now I feel like a failure after
This is always something we can aspire to, right? The scripture is something we can aspire to. So.
cook, shop, please.
Hey, I get food from afar, Costco's far.
Yeah.
We gotta go to Samson to that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the food's imported too, right? So. Yeah. You can get olive oil from Italy, or Spain, or. All right, I think that's a good place to end on tonight.
I just want to
Go ahead.
say this, that I think the Lord wants women to know that this is how he sees us.
Mm,
Even if we don't measure up, this is how he sees us.
mm, yeah. Yeah, it says, that if you go look at the very last scripture, or near the end, just, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. And that's the most important lesson, I believe, is that, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. So,
Well, I was thinking that very like when we were reading, I was trying to interpret what it said to something that I do.
mhm,
Like, I don't cook, but I do go to work every day, and I do get up and leave when it's dark sometimes, and everyone else is still sleeping. And I make the bed before I go, even if he's still. Like my side. So I was trying to be like, okay, well, I don't do that, but I do this. So I was
cereal.
yeah, you may not buy the material, but you may buy the actual bedding, and you may actually buy the, so,
the sheets are always clean.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
no, but I was trying to, because it is different than the way it used to be. Like, I've never made clothes. I wouldn't even know how to make clothes.
Yeah, and I think it's more practical nowadays for people in our modern society to just buy clothes, because it's so much cheaper than having to make it yourself, or at least
But I
easier.
always look for bargains and sales. So.
Yeah. There you go.
No white
Yeah.
shoppers.
I'm a
Yeah.
wise
You
shopper.
consider a field and you buy it. So,
I'm a wise shopper.
so you at least consider things,
It's funny because she made a covering for her bed. I just put a quilt that I made on my bed. Well,
I have a Kate Spade purse, but I went to the Kate Spade outlet.
I'm checking everything off.
It was on clearance.
Everybody check.
I
Okay.
like this one, says, she will be praised throughout eternity.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have, parents who did well, like you were talking about your grandma, that's gonna go on, Your
Mhm.
grandchildren, great grandchildren, they're gonna be talking about their grandparents.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for joining us. And are we going to meet there next week, or are we going to meet over here next week?
No, we'll meet here, we'll plan, we're thinking of maybe doing one service, I don't know when we'll do it, but one service a month in the auditorium and invite people to come on with that praise and worship. I shared it with Noni and Cindy, they said they'd be willing to do that.
Okay.
So, but maybe in the summer, we're not sure, but
Yeah.
it's something that we want to experiment with, these are so good, I just feel bad that so many people don't come out, and maybe to give them an opportunity to start coming on Wednesday,
Yeah.
I think would be a healthy thing for the church. So pray about it, see when we can start doing that,
Yeah.
one Sunday, and one Wednesday a month.
And I had thought about that, like announcing it more, like even, I would love to get up and invite people, maybe people who have come could come up and say how important Wednesday night is and what we get out of
Sure.
it.
That, I think that'd be a great start.
Mm.
There's maybe some of you, if I'll just make room for it, says, give a testimony and come up and say,
Not yet. Oh, yeah. So.
I went to a funeral, my friend passed away, Thomas, they had a service for him. And one of my neighbors from across the street, I hadn't seen her 20, 30 years. And you see people, 20, 30 years later, you don't even recognize them, right? Unless they tell you who they are. So anyway, she comes and says, "Hey, how are you? And who are you?" And she tells me. And she was my neighbor from across the street. She's telling me that you married her, her and her husband 20 years ago. And I said, "But we just watch, church on TV." I said, "Well, why are you doing that?" I said, "You need to come back to church." I said, that's
Here's the hard question, do you remember her name now?
Do I know her name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who was it?
her name was Cruz Ibarra.
I went to school with her.
And you know who came up and said hi to me too? Was Elsa
Yeah,
Camacho's
I mean-
sister.
Mhm.